Hey everyone, it's time for another edition of Beaver Banter.
Beaver Sports Talk lives here.
It is the Beaver Banter podcast. I'm CJ Baumgartner, joined by Ian Rivers. The Beaver Banter podcast is presented, as always, by Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation. Ian, always a great time to be a Beaver, but especially so when it's a Hall of Fame weekend, neutral site game. You were up in Grand Rapids. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it was a fun experience. I mean, the game was awesome. Not just because the Beavers ended up coming out victoriously, but yeah, I had never, to my credit, or to my fault, I guess I should say, I haven't been in too many high school barns, rinks, whatever you want to call them. But Yanmar up there in Grand Rapids is pretty incredible for a high school hockey rink. And sometimes you just need to step into one of those high school rinks to realize, yeah, this is really the state of hockey. You know, 6 Division I men's and women's hockey programs, and the Minnesota Wild, for what they are, and so much high school hockey history. It's crazy, and it was a fun event. You know, there was some honorees before the game, and then just to be able to see all of the people that were from the Grand Rapids community that do support BSU, that came out and talked to a couple of people, you know, during the game, just about where they were from, and a lot of people just from Rapids wanted to come out and see some good hockey. So it was fun. It was a fun event overall.
Yeah, and of course, Bemidji State got a win in the whole thing, which is also really cool. Just talk about what you saw in that game for the Beavers getting a win over the Purple Cows.
Yeah, it was a really good game, dude. I was surprised to see them play. You know, normally we're sitting here talking like last weekend, the series against Wisconsin, I should say. You know, it's 3-3 at the end of the first period. And then, you know, the final score is 10-3. And I feel like we've seen that a lot this year, where the Beavers play a pretty good first period. You look back to the series against St. Cloud earlier this year at the Sanford Center. They're up 4-0, I believe, heading into the third period, and almost let that one slip away before stealing an overtime win. The first period seems to be when this team has played the best, and it really was a struggle in the first period. Minnesota State jumped out to a lead about halfway through the first period, and then, you know, the Beavers just weren't quite putting the passes together. It looked a little bit sloppy at times, but they ended up getting a power play, and Izzy Fairchild just rifled it in like within 4 or 5 seconds of the power play starting, which was a relief to see after, you know, the events of the men's team for the last month or so. But yeah, tie game from there, and this team really seemed to grow into the game a fair amount. You know, I was there with my entire family, and you know, my sister and brother are both talking, like, you know, these people that have not watched this team outside of this game, and they're both commenting like, man, they look better than they did in the first period. They're really growing into the game, and honestly, I thought they were way better in the third period than Minnesota State by the time that rolled around. Second period, there was a major penalty. I can't remember exactly who got called for it. It was Kate Johnson, as a boarding major. And I can't say I necessarily disagree with it, but one of the issues of playing a game like that in a high school rink is they don't have the video review software available to them. So the refs just go and they huddle up and they determine it's a major. And I can't say I was surprised, but the Beavers were able to kill it off. And it was like just chaos the whole time. You know, there was a stretch. I can't remember exactly how long it was, but if you told me it was 2 minutes where those penalty killers were on the ice, I would believe you. Because second period, you know, long change is really tough unless you can get get the puck cleared or get a stoppage of the puck. It's really tough to get your penalty killers off the ice. It was at least a minute and a half that they were on the ice before they were able to freeze the puck, I believe, and get some new penalty killers on. But yeah, really good kill there. Unfortunately, there was a hit later that period that, you know, again, it's from behind near the boards. They can't review it, but Minnesota State only gets 2 minutes for that. It definitely wasn't quite as I don't want to say aggressive, but it wasn't quite as nasty looking as the first one, but still no goal on that power play for the Beavers. But yeah, in the third period, like I said, Beavers were just buzzing the whole time, and Shelby Sandberg ended up getting a goal off of a really good offensive zone possession time for the Beavers and tucked it in there off of a shot from, I believe, Rayleigh Carney. Yeah, she got the assist, and then Casey Senden as well. Really good shift from the Beavers, resulting in a go-ahead goal, and then being able to hold on. Just super exciting. The energy in the rink was awesome. Yeah, just super cool to see them actually come away with a win in a game like this.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's a culmination of things, right? It's first of all getting the win, which this program just needed a game like that to get back in the win column. And not just that, a WCHA win certainly helps them out. After, again, this conference is not easy. Like, you could look at scores like that and go, what the heck? But this is like, if Bemidji State competed in a bunch of other conferences, I'm not saying that they'd be at the top, but they certainly would be competitive, and a lot more competitive than they are in the WCHA. It's the best women's hockey conference in the world. Like, there's just no other way around it. So when you get a game like this, where you get two teams like Minnesota State, like Bemidji State, that are kind of in the same tier of teams, they go at it, and you realize, like you're talking about, like, okay, you're seeing some good hockey moves. You're seeing things stay in. You're seeing this team play well. And sometimes it's just, we're just not looking at things in the right context. And this is a weekend where it's like, didn't go your way on Friday night, came back around and got a split. And it ends the weekend on a really high note. And then to do it in that neutral site game for the Hall of Fame weekend, just as a nice cherry on top, and really overall just a good way to kind of keep things rolling, because, Ian, there's not too many hockey weekends left for the women's hockey team.
Yeah, 3, I believe, left in the regular season. Ends on February 21st is the final game of
We're in the
year.
final month.
Yeah, exactly. Getting down to it. Amsoil Arena is the location for this weekend's events, playing the number 10 team in the country, Minnesota Duluth. And you can say to yourself, well, look, we just hung with the number 13 team in the country. We split with them. I do believe that Duluth and Minnesota State are two versions of the same beast, if you will. Duluth is a little bit more talented, and that's no offense to Minnesota State. Not that I necessarily have a problem with creating offense to either of these two universities that we will be
slander of these two programs will be tolerated on this program. That's where we're getting at.
Yeah, exactly. But no, it was just it's good to get some momentum at least going into that. Whenever you play a neutral site game or a big game, nationally televised, you want to be putting not that this game was nationally televised, but you want to be putting your best foot forward and putting yourself and your brand on display. Shout out to I don't exactly know who it was. I was trying to take a selfie with the fam after the game near the ice, and some of the Beavers were skating by, and apparently they were trying to photobomb the picture, but I was a little bit old man pilled. I don't know what was going on, because we were standing on the bleachers, and so I'm like trying to get the angle correct to actually get everybody in it, and my entire family is like focused on these players that are like, behind us, and I'm like, what did you say? They're photobombing?
Are you... What's that? There's a bomb?
There's a bomb? What?
Dude, you're just like holding your phone like this, yeah,
exactly. So I wasn't able to capture that moment in the selfie with the family, but yeah, it was a super fun event. My grandparents live up in Grand Rapids. We made a whole trip out of it. Went up, saw them, and then went to the game afterwards. Yeah, super cool. Beavers are now at 6 wins, which ties their win total from last year. So we'll see. I mean, St. Cloud State, the next weekend is definitely a gettable opponent. I think they can play with Duluth pretty well. The first series didn't necessarily go terribly. When you compare it to these games against Minnesota and Wisconsin, it looks a lot better than that, but it doesn't look as good as, the series against Minnesota State or St. Cloud State. But you made a good point, CJ. I was literally talking to my sister's boyfriend, who never been to a hockey game in his life. And I was just, trying to explain what the Beavers situation is, who some of the players on the team are. None of my family knows what a Haley Armstrong is. It's like,
what?
Watch out for that.
Have
one
they been
right
living?
There. Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you doing? I don't care if you didn't go to the school. How do you not? How do you
not appreciate the work of Haley Armstrong? I mean, come on. But yeah.
And I don't want to get too SEC pilled here, but like, I do think that you have a great point where it's like, I think if the Beavers were in almost any other like conference in this, like they would be at least top half in most of them.
You'd be at least like 500 in your conference games or something.
Right. It just makes you look like so much worse when like you're getting excited about, we just got a split against Minnesota State. It was a big game. It was awesome. And now, you got Minnesota Duluth coming up. Your final series of the season is against Ohio State. It's like, and then you're probably going to be playing Wisconsin again come WCHA tournament time. So it's tough. It's really tough in this conference. So yes, I just wanted to make sure that your point didn't go unnoticed there, because this is just a complete buzzsaw of a conference. So yeah, let's see how it goes in Amsoil this weekend against Minnesota Duluth. I think, let's see if that momentum that we carried from last weekend has any effect on what they can do this weekend.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep you updated on that in next week's episode. And Ian, let's talk a little bit here about the men's hockey side of things. It's been done. Finally getting a full outright win for the first time in months. They got it right in under the wire, getting it in January, so we could not have to talk about it going all the way into February, but they got a win and felt like a very therapeutic win on Saturday, really letting some frustration come out, it felt like, in that victory. But I think it still needs to be said that on Friday night, it definitely continued kind of that sour train.
Yeah, Friday was a rough one. This is obviously the game I got to watch more of, as I was pretty preoccupied with the women's team.
Weren't you so lucky?
Yeah, well, I did make a comment about that in the Beaver Banter Discord before the game started.
Which you should follow.
Yes, of course. Yeah, Friday was just a little rough, man, and they kind of got goalied to an extent where, like, young Ashton played, like, out of his mind, like he has been all year. Like, I was talking to Jared, because of course our good friend Jared Roboto of the Bemidji Pioneer was at the game in Grand Rapids as well, and he's talking about all the stats, and this guy's like got his best career save percentage now, like at playing at the highest level that he ever has, like, insane. Now that he's in college hockey. He had one win on the season as a goaltender coming into the game against BSU. He had a .930 save percentage.
And only one win?
And like 1-11 record. Like,
what is he, Jacob deGrom? Crazy. Like, insane.
Yeah, exactly. Like, just nuts. The dude is crazy. And that's kind of what happened to the Beavers on Friday night. Like, I did think that they played like okay. But again, it's the same conversation we had been having for weeks at that point, where it's like, yes, you maybe didn't look like you played that poorly against Bowling Green on Friday night last weekend, but you only scored one goal. You didn't have anything to show for it. And so it looks a lot worse, because you're just not actually converting on any of these chances. And I think I tweeted out, the Beavers had averaged 3.25 goals per game in 2025, like the first part of the season before winter break. And then coming out of the break in the 7 games up before Saturday's victory over Northern Michigan, they were averaging 1.42 goals per game in those games. And it was just a stark contrast to cap it off as well, getting shut out by a team that has now 3 wins on the season, 3-24 overall. Is just a brutal break for a team that desperately needed a weekend to bounce back. And in the whole picture of the weekend, it's still a disappointment, because you still only came away with 3 points against Northern Michigan. But at least the good news happened on Saturday, so you feel a little bit better about yourself.
It's amazing how much that happened. If they would have gotten a win on Friday but lost on Saturday, we go, oh, missed opportunity. You got to be kidding me. But yeah, because it's the second game of the weekend, we go, okay, we're back.
Exactly. And if you want to split, if you wanted to split those 7 goals up and maybe get 3 of them on Friday and 4 of them on Saturday, 6 points. Here we are. But we'll see what this does for the Beavers. Like, maybe there just is some bad juju, and February is now here, and we don't have to worry about the January Blues anymore. And maybe this team will kind of resort, or I'm blanking on the word,
kind of fall back into their
fall
usual
back
ways
on
at the end of
what
the
we
season.
saw. Yeah, earlier this season, even where it's more competitive games and all this and all that. Like, I don't know, 7-1. Like you said, I think Jared actually had tweeted at the end of the first period, because that was kind of when everything happened. We were in between, I believe, the second and third periods for the women's game, and I was walking back from the bathroom, and Jared happened to be watching the first period of the men's game on a laptop in by the media area there. And I just stopped and I saw both of Riley Funk's goals. Just so happened when I was talking to Jared there. And he tweeted out, and it was like a collective sigh of relief amongst the fan base to get those 2 goals. And then Juhas added one within a minute even of Riley Funk. So 3 goals in the space of 1 minute and, or I'm sorry, 1 minute and 31 seconds. 3 goals for this team that has not been able to score, like, to save their lives, it feels like. And so it really did. It feel like a huge sigh of relief and a weight off the shoulders. And then, to finish off the game the way they did, with a power play goal, obviously Adam Flamang getting that late in the game, shorthanded goal even from Oliver Peer. And I think it was really good to see some of these names. The only thing you could have thrown on there to make it a little bit better is Kirkland Irie. Like Riley Funk got a couple of goals. He's kind of been in a drought. Like, not that the whole team hasn't been, but the first line kind of getting back in action. Flamang had 2 goals. Peer got a goal and an assist. I thought Panzer played pretty well with that top line this weekend, for what it's worth. They did try to switch it up a little bit. Just 7 goals, man. That's exactly what the doctor ordered this weekend. And we'll see what it does for this team heading now back home. Ferris State is next on the docket. I do think Ferris State, I said this last week, I think Ferris State is the worst team in the CCHA. They're obviously in last place now, that you let Northern Michigan get 3 points and jump over you in the standings. But the CCHA is obviously like a lost cause at this point. You're not going to go and win the McNaughton Cup. Home ice, like, go and get 6 points this weekend, and then I'll at least entertain it next week.
Right.
Because you're still in the hunt for that, but you would need some help. The one thing you have going for you is that you could still take points off of Minnesota State. Of course, that series is on the road, not this coming weekend, but the one after. So you would have to take like majority of points from that weekend and 6 points from this weekend. And then you still have St. Thomas, who's playing like the best team in the CCHA right now to finish up your season. So who knows if it'll happen, but at the very least, this weekend is super important just for playing the brand of hockey that you want to get back to playing. Let's not see this 7-goal blow up and then kind of revert back to what we've been doing. And this is kind of the team to do it. CJ, I think you've been talking about the goals for and goals against. Ferris State, easily the most goals against in the conference, even more so than Northern Michigan. Northern Michigan second most with 71. Ferris State 85 goals allowed this season. So,
goodness gracious.
Yeah, this is an opportunity for the Beavers, who have scored 56 goals and have allowed 55, to kind of.
Hey, we got that +1 in the differential.
We got the +1.
We're back to a positive goal differential. That's huge.
Exactly. Huge opportunity to kind of expand on that this weekend and really get back to starting a winning streak. Let's get three wins in a row, and then we'll head to Mankato and we'll see where we're at. Obviously, right now we're 9 points out of home ice, and that's not even including the 2 games in hand that Bowling Green still has. So 7-game losing streaks are probably going to sink your chances at getting home ice, especially when it's a super tightly contested race like this. If you remember all the way back to that year that the team, I I think it was the infamous McNaughton Cup game, or not the McNaughton Cup, the Mason Cup game, where they lost like 6 games in a row at the end of the year, finished off with a weekend against the St. Thomas team, who was still relatively new to college hockey. They did lose 6 in a row, I believe, that year, and they still finished third in the CCHA because it was a 2-dog race, in the conference. And the Beavers were in that hunt until they ended up losing 6 straight games before they finished off the season with a sweep of the Tommies. So
what you're saying is there's a chance.
Yeah, I mean, there is a chance at home ice. It's got to start with 6 points. I think anything less than 6 points, and you can, yes, there's obviously a chance that you come out and get 6 points against the Mavericks the next weekend, and then, it's still on, but yeah,
right.
It's got to be 6 points.
And mainly for the vibe standpoint, too. You got to take care of business this weekend.
Right, and maybe, if you're not focused as much on that as you are, even if you get 5 points, but it's a really good win one night and then, a tightly contested game, but you win in overtime. Like, that's miles better than what we've seen over the last month with this team. So at the end of the day, I wouldn't be too upset if it was 5 points, but yeah, anything less than that would feel a bit like a disappointment, but it's probably more at this point about making sure you stay ahead of Lake Superior State, who you probably will now that you at least got 3 off of Northern Michigan, because they're 8 back from you. But yeah, just playing your best brand of hockey once the Mason Cup playoffs roll around, because at this point, it's, what are we, like 46th in the NPI? Like, we're not getting an at-large bid. I think that's been out the window for quite a while at this point. But yeah, go win the Mason Cup. But, you got to start playing a little better before we get there. Let's see if we can, again, just like the women's team, compound on that good Saturday night and use it to leapfrog into some more success here over the last 3 weekends of the regular season.
Exactly. Ian, we're going to talk more on the Beaver Banter podcast here about some more playoff races for men's and women's basketball. Tennis is starting up. We're going to break all that down and more. But first, want to give a quick word about Bemidji State Alumni and Association here, getting us powering Bemidji State, State Alumni and Foundation. It's been a long day, man. I've been rolling, but we do love Bemidji State University Alumni and Foundation and the great things that they do, because once a Beaver, always a Beaver. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation is here to keep that green and white pride going strong for its 50,000 graduates around the world. From scholarships that open doors for students to events that bring BSU alumni and friends together, you can get connected, give back, and leave a legacy at Bemidji State. Whether you're a proud BSU grad, a local supporter, or just love cheering on the Beavers, come be a part of the action at bsualumni.org. That's bsualumni.org. Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, proud supporters of the Beaver Banter podcast. And Ian, also, just speaking of Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation, there's just some things that maybe next week you should be looking out for, and over the next couple weeks especially. So big news regarding them and regarding the podcast that you want to tune into next week's episode to find out.
Absolutely. Yeah. Lots in store.
So men's basketball over the weekend, Ian, really trying to find a way to, you talk about losing streaks, trying to get it to stop, and again, a heartbreaker against Augustana. You couldn't quite get the job done there against the Vikings. And then you lose another one within single digits to Wayne, losing both games on the weekend by a combined 11 points. And just this is a weekend where it really felt like Bemidji State wanted to try and claw themselves back into anything. They had some opportunities and unfortunately just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, it's been brutal for this team, man. It's the Wayne State game was a 9-point loss, but before that, like, they had 3 losses in a row. 4 points to Concordia St. Paul, 3 points in overtime to Winona State, and then a 2-point loss to Augustana. Just brutal. I mean, you talk about variance in 1-score games. Like, this is not that 4 points is technically 1 score in basketball. It could be, but you know what I mean? Like, close losses after close losses. Like, this is a 10-game losing streak that the team is on now. Look at all these, 6 points to Minot, 12 to Minnesota Duluth. Yeah, there's a 30 in there to Southwest, 3 to Sioux Falls, 11 to St. Cloud, 15 to Mankato, and then, like we said, 4, 3, 2, and 9. Like, there's one blowout loss in there. There's a couple other double-digit losses, but just been brutal luck for these guys. Like, yes, at a certain point, you got to come through in these close games, but you're telling me that every one of these, there's not a couple things that, bounce against you here and there. Like,
Right.
yeah,
It's coming up tails every single time. Are you serious?
exactly.
Yeah.
But
And
similar to the rest of the programs we've talked about so far, there are still 6 opportunities for this team to pick up a win and break that losing streak. Some of the best of them coming this weekend, perhaps. Huge game on Saturday, CJ. Both of them are huge because now you're back into the second ballot of the North Division standings. But Minot State on Thursday, they are sitting right in front of you, technically, 2 games in front of you. So if you want to climb at all, Moorhead's probably out of reach. A home playoff game in the first round of the playoffs is probably out of reach, being 4 games back. But Minot State, 2 games in front of you. You have a great opportunity to try to make up some ground on them with a game on Thursday. And then Saturday, probably even more important, the game against UMary, who you're tied at 3-13 with for the final playoff spot in the NSIC North. If we've been storing up wins here for late in the season, this would be a great weekend to get a sweep because, this is just crunch time right here. This weekend could very well make or break your season, when it comes down to at least saying we made it to the dance. And then at that point, anything can happen. Like, you never know. Like, if you climb up, like, you can get a matchup against Moorhead and a Moorhead team that obviously gave you a little bit of trouble earlier this season, but I think that was just kind of a one-off. Like, I don't think Moorhead is going to do that again here in a couple of weeks when we see them necessarily. I think that these are 2 a little bit more evenly matched teams than we saw earlier this year. But yeah, this first weekend is probably going to be the biggest, just in total, for what the Beavers kind of need to do to save their season here at the end.
yeah, exactly. There's not a lot of time left to try and turn things around, at least to get the vibes going in a better direction, and just to snap this losing streak and get the monkey off the back would certainly help. Something that's plagued Bemidji State over the weekend was 3-point shooting. They shot 22% from 3 on Friday night, 30% from 3 on Saturday night. Even though they won the rebounding battle in both of those, kept the turnover battle pretty constant. Just, again, not being able to quite make enough on the offensive end of the floor, shooting 38% total from the field on Saturday. So it really feels like this team, and we say that after they had a huge offensive explosion the weekends before. So it kind of just is any given game in the NSIC. But yeah, overall, it's you have your opportunities here. Bemidji State just needs to find a way to get into the win column and try and salvage what they can with Minot and UMary. And then, of course, like we've talked about, Northern and Jamestown, and then finishing it up kind of with the Saturday game in Moorhead, and then home against Crookston. There's a couple more opportunities to get some wins, but things need to just happen quickly, because it kind of feels like, obviously we talked about home playoffs being out of the realm of possibility, but also just from the not letting the season fall into total collapse, and trying to salvage it is just important. And this weekend is the weekend to start it. So it's going to happen one way or another. We'll find out, but I think it'll be important for Bemidji State to try and find again that offensive identity that just seemed to escape them this weekend.
Yeah, 3-point shooting, like you said, it's been hot or cold. It's saved the Beavers in a couple of games, and it's really kept them involved in a couple of them. And, live by the 3, die by the 3 is what they say. And unfortunately, this weekend, it seemed to be a little bit more of the latter. But this weekend will be interesting. UMary and Minot, sorry, I was looking for the words there, both bottom-ish portion of the conference when it comes to scoring offense. Minot State 11th with 76.3 points per game. UMary with 74.7 is in 13th. And then scoring defense, Minot a little bit better than both Bemidji and UMary with 10th place in the conference, 78.5. UMary and Bemidji tied at 81.5 for 13th place in the conference. So,
And by the way, too, opponent 3-point field goal percentage, UMary has allowed teams to shoot 38% from three. That's the highest in the conference. So Minot sitting at around 34.5%. That's 11th. I should flip that around, I guess. Minot there is sixth best in the conference. So against UMary, you have a real opportunity to try and get that 3-point game right.
Yeah, and something the Beavers have struggled with a little bit themselves. Like they're 11th in the conference. They've allowed 35% from the 3-point arc. But Minot State on that Thursday game especially only shoots 31.5% from beyond the arc. They are 15th in the conference, and UMary just at a hair above them at 32.4% for 12th. So again, we talked about this last week a little bit with Northern Michigan's penalty kill versus BSU's power play. You've got an opportunity to try and increase your 3-point defensive percentage this weekend and playing against teams that don't really shoot it particularly well, especially compared to some of the teams like in the south of the conference. You look at most of the teams that are at the top of the 3-point field goal percentage offensively, Southwest, Wayne, Concordia's 4th, Augustana's 5th. Most of those teams in the top 5 are from the south, and then there's Bemidji State there at 3rd place. Before getting some more north teams back in the middle of the pack there. So yeah, I'm super interested in this weekend's games. You know, it's going to come down to it, and it really has. 10-game losing streak. You're still in the hunt though. At some point, all you got to say is, again, it's basketball. Get into the dance and see where you go from there. And that's where we're at with this team so far. So we'll see. This weekend is going to tell a lot about whether or not this team can get there and try to book another ticket to Sioux Falls.
Exactly. So let's flip things over to the women's basketball side of things through the weekend. Again, we talked about their opportunities to try and get into the win column and get another split. Unfortunately, had a couple losses. Again, both of them close enough games, 65-59. You lose that one by 6 to Augustana on Friday night, and then you lose by 11 to Wayne State on Saturday. Taking a look at Friday's matchup against Augustana in the game recap there for the Beavers in this one is all of a sudden my page is crashing on me. There we go. 38% shooting for the Beavers from the field total, actually shot just a little bit better from 3 with 38.5%. Augustana shot 48% from the field, 11% from 3. So the rebounding battle, and Augustana has always felt like they're that team that just dominates on the glass in women's basketball. They were plus 11 in the rebounding battle, turnovers about even. And that just kind of felt like the ball game where Augustana shot really well, but it's like, look at Rudy Gobert's all-time shooting percentage. You want to know why it's incredibly high? He's shooting from 2 feet away from the basket. And that's kind of the case for Augustana. They have a great shooting percentage, and it also coincides with their rebounds. What does that tell you? They're cleaning up on the glass, a lot of putbacks, and a lot of things that make it tough for Bemidji State to try and neutralize.
Yeah. It stinks, man. You're in a position, where, if you're looking at where this team is compared to where they've been the last couple of years, it's good. You're at this last little stretch of the season, and you're in the postseason if it would end today. Normally, we've been right below by a game or two out, and we're telling ourselves, like, man, if we could just steal a couple wins here at the end of the year, we might be able to sneak in there. Now you got to get a couple of wins to kind of boost yourself up and get back in, make sure you get in to the tournament. Augustana and Wayne were, unfortunately, those games are on the road. That does make a little bit of a difference, especially with the longer road trips down to Sioux Falls and Wayne especially. But those teams were at the bottom of the South Division. You were hoping at least to get a split and get a little bit more of a buffer there. But yeah, it does. It's just, close games too. So it's unfortunate that they weren't able to pull it out. Like you said, CJ, there wasn't necessarily any one, we always talk about, is there one quarter, that stands out to you? It's like, yeah, they lost by 6 in the third quarter, but like, that's right. That's not even like, we're talking
right.
about
That's not like you got dominated or anything. Like, it says like, the other team is capable of having a nice quarter.
Yeah. There's a couple extra shots that went in, like the Wayne game. There's one, the first half in general, down by whatever it was at the end there. I don't know. You only scored 20 points in the first half. Not the greatest. I think it was 36-20 at the end of the first half, if I'm remembering correctly, seeing the graphic.
We're making
posted.
Ian do math on the fly. It's okay.
Seeing the graphic posted on Twitter. Yeah, so you had a way better second half, but again, first half was just a little bit rough, too little too late there. But again, you're in the same situation as the men's team. If you can pull out a couple wins here at the end of the season, you're going to be going back to the NSIC tournament. And it's been a couple years now before the women's team. I think it was like 2022, maybe the last year.
That sounds right. Yeah.
It's either 22 or 23. I can't remember which, but it wasn't as long ago as I remember, to be honest with you. So, yeah, it would be fun. It would be fun to get in. Minot definitely the more gettable game this weekend. Minot right ahead of you, again, similar to the men's team. But they're only one spot in front of you. And then you, Mary, sitting at 18-7 overall, 11-5 in the NSIC. That'll be a tougher game, especially because these are on the road. You did get swept by these teams the first time. So we need some more help in the Beaver battle. It's been a rough year so far for Bemidji State in the Beaver battle. We got to pull off a couple of victories here. So, hey, both men's and women's hoops could do it and really help that total this year.
We need it. Come on. Let's go.
We need it.
Let's go Beavs. Let's go Beavs. Come on. We're going to need it this weekend. So, yeah, best of luck to the women's basketball team. Best of luck to the men's. And we're going to need to see what can happen because, again, only 6 games left, which is crazy to think about because the winter sports season it feels like you're in a constant state of you're either in the winter sports season or you're like, oh, weird, winter sports season's not here. And then you look around the corner and there it is. So it's always a fun time of year, but it's crazy to think that we're towards the end here as we enter into the month of February. So Ian, why don't we wrap up the show talking a little bit of tennis, talking a little bit of track and field and some other Beaver news and notes to wrap up the show, but let's give a good shout out to the folks over at Bemidji State Alumni and Foundation.
Do you want to be a part of the team behind the teams at Bemidji State? Join hundreds of dedicated fans when you donate to Beaver Athletics and help BSU pursue its next championship. Your gift can power your favorite program, establish a scholarship for a student athlete you get to meet, and so much more. Every dollar brings the Beavers closer to raising another trophy. You can add to the proud tradition of success at Bemidji State. So don't wait. Give today at bsualumni.org/Beavers. That's bsualumni.org/BEAVERS.
Okay, tennis gets the season started off on the right foot here with some competition over the weekend. And again, a 2-0 start for the tennis team. Ian, 7-0 victory against St. Scholastica, 4-3 win over Minnesota Duluth, which again, just a couple nice ways to get things going. Obviously, it looks like they were competing on Saturday, had 2 matches in one day in Duluth as St. Scholastica was hosting there up in the castle, up on the hill. And it's a 2-0 start for the Beavers, so things looking pretty nice to start the season.
Yeah, always good to get the season started off well. I think they had a similar start last year in obviously not conference play yet. These are not NSIC regulated matches, but still good to get a win when you can. Another couple of games coming up this weekend in Grand Forks, North Dakota, against Minnesota Morris and Minnesota Crookston. Both of those are on February 6th. That's Friday, 3 p.m. and 6 p.m. for the tennis team.
All right, perfect. And again, going to be good to see the Beavers just going out there and trying to stack some wins together before those conference matches. It's kind of weird, right? Like there's 4 NSIC matches that are coming in the middle of the month, and then they take a break, and then at the end of March, then all of a sudden it's just bang, bang, bang as they got 6 to end the season. So it's always fascinating with that indoor tennis, you know?
Right.
So as we were just talking before the show too, it's like, you know, again, we love talking about the scores. We love shouting out the athletes. I just don't know much about tennis. I'll be quite honest, like terminology, like strategy. Like I know you want to hit it over the net. I know it needs to bounce. That's about it. I know that Roger Federer is pretty good or something. Like that's to where the depth of my tennis knowledge starts to go away, you know?
Yeah. rough on Nadal clears, but hey, what do you know? Yeah, no,
nothing. That's my point.
I can't say I'm an expert on the sport either. It's tricky because I can't remember if you have to hit it to a specific part. I think you have to hit it at least cross court on the serve. And then from there, it's, as long as it's within the certain outline, then you're fine.
Right.
And that's the goal, is to make your opponent not be able to get the ball, of course. But yeah, again, even me just explaining that is probably driving somebody up a wall at this point. But yeah, it's unfortunate.
You just hit the yellow thingy that my dog likes to chase. That's
yes, exactly. Don't let my dog see you doing that, because she'll go berserk.
Right, exactly. I gotta walk completely around the tennis courts. I just got to avoid them. Hey, let's talk a little track and field. It was the UND Open in Grand Forks over the weekend, and just to kind of get a recap on how things were for this Bemidji State women's track and field team. Again, taking a look at some of the results here for the meet. Sophie Rylance claims the 1,000 meter title at the UND Open. She took home the top mark for BSU by finishing with her time that I can't quite see on here as I'm looking at the results. But Rylance's second first place finish of the season. She won the 600 meter run at the NDSU Alumni Classic in December. Maggie McCarthy, Alyssa Levine, and Hannah Baker also found their names in the top 10 lists for their own respective events. Yeah, Jaden Wodars and Amelia Congrove PR in the 60 meter dash. In the 200 meter dash, Wodars had a personal record as well. In the 400 meter, Congrove and Aiken were finished, where Congrove got a PR again. Sophie Rylance, a PR, obviously, in the 1,000 meter run. In the mile run, Jaslyn Hanneberger got a PR, and Sydney Price got a season best in the mile run as well. So, and again, that time in the 1,000 meter for Rylance was 2:58.01. For that run as well. In the high jump, Alyssa Levine, 1.56 meters, sets a PR. Kate Martin in the shot put, a PR. Emma Green, a season best in the shot put. And in the weight throw, Emma Green setting a PR as well. Bemidji State is going to go to the Bison Open on Saturday, in Fargo. And then all of a sudden, they're going to be in Mankato on February 14th, back to UND on the 20th, and then the season wraps up with the indoor championships on the 27th and 28th in Mankato. Life comes at you fast this time of year.
Yeah, exactly. It's always these sports like track and field. Golf is somewhat similar to an extent, at least, where it's kind of like it's over before it started. It feels like, where there's all these meets are jammed into like 1 month, and then it's gone. It never existed at all,
right?
Actually, so
and I get it. It sets up for outdoor track and field, but still, it's just quick. How it's like, all right, yeah, we go to like 3 meets in this month, and then we're running for the championships and things like that. So, and you know what? Hopefully they do well and get to some of those meets where they're in better spots. I remember, so I have a brother that competes in an NAIA sanctioned event, so not NCAA. But he was joking with us that, the meets are, they're national meets or whatever is in Gainesville. And I have no idea, and not that it's bad competition in NAIA, but you just don't quite know how relative to competition everything is. And so he's like, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll go to Gainesville. And we were like, oh, cool. Should we if you go, we'll go. Yeah, we'll go to Florida. It's like, I'm not going to go. Why do you keep running with that? It's like, well, kind of made it sound like I could get an excuse to get out of the cold for a few days. So
right.
Thanks for that. So yeah, there you go. Any other Beaver news we need to hit on, Ian, as we try and wrap up the show?
Softball is right around the corner, 2 days and 17 hours from this recording. So as of tomorrow, it'll probably be closer to 24 hours when this comes out. But yeah, they have a couple of games next. It looks like this coming weekend, actually, Friday doubleheader, and then another doubleheader on Saturday. They've got the annual Kelly Lass Memorial Tournament in St. Cloud in the Husky Dome there. A couple of games against the Huskies, and then some games against Concordia St. Paul and Southwest as well. before about a 2-week break before they're back in action. But yeah, again, just as we're talking about winter sports starting to come to a close, softball comes out of nowhere and hits you over the head with a bat. And that's just about how it feels every year, where you're like, it's the same as women's hockey. These two sports always are the ones that just sneak up on you. And it's like, oh yeah, it's mid-September. Women's hockey is starting already. Like, what the hell?
You know how the NFL season just started? Women's hockey is just about to start too. And you're like,
exactly.
What?
Yeah.
It's the Office meme, right? Where Angela's behind Dwight. And it's just like, ah! Like that's every single time. It's just like, oh yeah, look at me looking at the winter sports. Oh, they're all having fun. Oh goodness, spring sports. They're right around the corner. But yeah, and it's cool that the Husky Dome is there because we know that those games are going to get played. Unlike baseball, which is scheduled for 10 days from this recording. Omaha, Nebraska, next Friday for the Creighton Prep baseball field in Omaha. And look, I get
I'll see it when I believe it.
Exactly. Maybe. I mean, it does get sneaky warm in that part of the world this time of year, but that warm. I'm looking it up on my phone right now.
Corn Belt.
Omaha, that's why it gets hot and sticky. The corn grows really well there. Yes. Yeah, next Thursday's 44 degrees. So maybe. We'll see. They're going to take on number 25, Augustana. 3 of those games will be NSIC. One of them won't be. Don't ask me how that works. And then they'll take on Rockhurst the next week in Kansas City. And then they'll play in Liberty as well. So they are going to be in Missouri a lot this month, unfortunately, for Bemidji State baseball. So, and then in March, the calendar flips. And then we try and get some games in Southern South Dakota and Sioux Falls. And, by the middle of March, there's some US Bank Stadium games on the docket this year in the middle of March. March 14th, they have a 3-game set against St. Cloud State, where they're going to be playing at the Viking Stadium. So we know for sure those games will be played for the Beavers, which I didn't know if US Bank Stadium was still doing that. I know that I don't believe they do anymore. Like they're the unofficial indoor home of the Gophers, and I don't think they're doing that anymore. So I kind of thought they were going to stop doing baseball. But I think, whatever. I mean, it makes sense why they would. It makes sense why they would keep doing it. Yeah. Nobody else is using the building. You got the space. You might as well rent it out. But yeah, it's not. I believe that they're not doing it for the Gophers anymore, like they used to, and way back in the day with the Metrodome, and then with the Gophers, kind of giving them basically because again, the college baseball season starts for them too, and yeah, they have a bunch of games to get in, so at least they can play home games at US Bank Stadium. But whatever, the Beavers will take that 3-game series against St. Cloud State. It is a very fascinating environment to play on that site. In high school, we got to play on the Metrodome, and that was cool. You just rent, like, people, certain high school teams will rent out Target Center all the time, to play games on there. And everybody's like, oh, whoa, how did you get that? That's pretty impressive. And it's like, you just go to a website or you call a person, and if you pay the money, they'll let you play there.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's cool. It's a cool environment, but it's not that deep, like in terms of setting up.
You don't have to earn it or something like that.
Right.
It's just kind of
if you're willing to pay up. It's like every music festival. How did this music festival get this big artist? I don't know. Did they go to the website and pay the fee that they were at? Like, did they pay the appearance fee? That musician will show up. Like, they'll show up anywhere as long as you pay the money that it takes for them to get there. Like, right. It's not that deep. You had the money to be able to afford it. But not to say it's not any less cool, but it's just it's just always kind of a backdoor thing. So, all right, go spring sports, I guess.
Yeah.
We'll be adding those to the list.
Yep.
In short order, which means we will need to get ready to talk some baseball, which will be really fun, and softball, and continuing to ramp up our tennis coverage and things like that. So, all right, good show, Ian. Wrapping things up here. It's been the Beaver Banter podcast. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, as well as watch every show on YouTube. Join the Beaver Banter Discord. See ya.